let's move on to the commodity space now and see what's happening. Even though I guess our guests, Bolanle Agbaje, Senior Analyst of Financial Derivatives, I know you're happy about that. I don't know if you go to Dubai a lot or the UAE, but I mean, that's a relief for a lot of Nigerians who go there to buy commodities for resale here. So I think that will also, that's good news for a lot of people.
Extremely good news, adding to our transport, places that Nigerians can actually go and, carry out different businesses and business opportunities. And I hear they're also trying to, bring in some sort of investment into the country. So that's, welcomed for us at the moment. And also, in particular, when you're looking at Emirates, that's their major airline there, that adds more competition to the existing pool of airlines that we currently have in Nigeria. So that's good for us.
Yeah, and I think that's a more budget friendly. I know a lot of Nigerians
usually love, Emirates. So it's great news for those Emirates users.
And it's good news for them too. They also get to make some money from the Nigerian population. Now, the Naira hasn't found its feet yet. It talks of redenomination, rebasing, whichever big word you want to use. It's filling the air.
Yeah, so there are rumors about redenominating, the Naira. We don't know how true that is, but what we know from the theoretic aspect of it is the fact that, when countries look at rebasing their currency, it's usually because of hyperinflation. So that's inflation of about 50% or more. We haven't really gotten to that point yet. Currency devaluation, which we're currently facing at the moment. And also maybe the country is joining a currency union, just like the Eurozone. So that's when you talk about rebasing, a currency.
I think Ghana did it some years ago.
They did. But for Ghana, it worked in the short term. But, looking at the long term, they did face, or they were back to almost status quo. And that's just because when you're rebasing a currency, it's not just that. That's, one side of the coin. You also have to implement other policies to support and corroborate that, existing policy. So are you increasing GDP within the economy? Are you boosting, the current levels of the economy, to complement that, high currency level that you're changing it to? So rebasing is usually just removing, 2 zeros from the Naira. So that would mean, the combination of Naira in correlation to the dollar obviously changes. And
what does that mean in practical?
So in practice,
like 1,000 is going to be equal
10 to 1, dollar. So currently, I think the exchange rate is about 947. So that would mean the exchange rate would become 9 Naira or 9.47 Naira to $1. So that's.
Sorry, it sounds artificial because just as we see from what happened in Ghana, if you're not careful, you just do that and we celebrate it and feel the euphoria, and then we are back because we have to deal with the basics. We can't run away from it.
We definitely do. So what it means is, for somebody in the market, are they ready to accept, what was worth 1,000 Naira, for example? Are they ready to accept 10 Naira for that same product? So there has to be a level of education.
High level of education. Well, there'll be a lot of fight
that needs to be passed across to the economy, and also boosting our supply levels, increasing our exports rather than imports. So in any sense, there will be less reliance on the dollar, the need to keep changing to the dollar to, make purchases. And that's the fundamental issue.
It sounds to me that there should be a lot of steps taken before we go to the rebasing.
Yes,
if we just wake up and do the rebasing, then it might just come as, the president announced that there's not FX is unified, and yet we don't have
I am sure that they've learned from the redesigning that was implemented last year, and they would. I don't think it's a rumor. We're not really. It's not confirmed. Nobody knows where the story
any
is
government
coming from. Nobody has mentioned
it's just
it. So
it's been so right these days. From a lot of economic quarters.
It could be because it was suggested in 2007 by the Soludo administration, and that it seemed like a policy that some people appreciated. And now that we're faced with even worse situations at the moment, everyone is looking for ways they can, because the spread now from the parallel market to the IE window is almost 200 Naira. And
so what was the essence of that unification
because
policy?
those fundamentals are still not there. We're still heavily reliant. Everyone is converting their money to dollar. They feel like, having their money in dollars is a safe bet as opposed to the Naira. And that's because there's lack of trust in whatever, policies that are implemented at the moment.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to have that, but implemented the right way, because it's not a bad policy to implement.
The steps taken prior to that is very necessary, or else it would just be another waste of policy, beautiful policy.
Definitely. But with what the ongoing administration is doing now, it doesn't seem like they would, immediately implement such.
Because we have a law, we are still dealing with subsidy and palliative
and trying
labor
to
strike
but I can see how redenominating the Naira could solve alleviate some of those problems if there's trust in Nigeria and in the Naira, and you have more investors coming in and changing their money to Naira and making such
talking about investors, the bad news we had yesterday about the NGX, I don't know if you saw it. Reclassification of the NGX, not a very good one. That of course will send negative sentiment to around FDIs, and
we definitely don't need more bad news, especially around the stock market situation, and having that now and more or less communicating such bad sentiments to investors at the moment is not necessarily great. But going forward, hopefully we'll see what new policies the administration is going to come up with. The UAE situation is great for us. We've sorted that out and we can now move on.
The Indian situation we're waiting for.
And even with the UAE, I hear there's some investments coming in. It would be nice to see the nitty-gritty of what those investments entail.
Yeah. All right, but it would have been a very good time for Nigeria when we have Brent above $90.
Yes. So the supply cuts are really doing wonders for us.
Yes.
We're still benefiting with that.
I think our production was a bit up.
Yes.
In August?
Yes, but I think it's currently at about just slightly above 1 million barrels per day, but we're still struggling because we're not even up to 1.6 at the moment. The oil theft,
1.8.
Yes, the oil theft issue, I think they're still solving that as well. I think the government is looking for ways to make sure that our supply is increasing significantly so we can benefit from that. But all in all, the high price complements the loss in outputs that we're seeing. And hopefully this is able to stay for as long as we can. Although it's the same trend, when Saudi, Russia, when they cut output, you have a situation where prices increase for a short period of time. And then it stabilizes and even probably goes back, because that affects demand as well. So once you see that significant drop in demand, prices, go down again. But 90 is welcome. It's nice.
It's nice. Yeah. And hopefully we're not paying any subsidy. Because that would
we don't know what's behind the fine
hopefully
print.
We're not paying any subsidy.
I hope that's not the case. But we're seeing prices increase marginally across board, or petrol prices rather. You're seeing up to about 600 in some states. So
really,
yes. So I guess that's
but we still have NNPC at least in Lagos at
568, which is still in line with what is happening. So as you see prices increase, you expect to see petrol prices or domestic petrol prices increase as well.
That's why we're waiting for Dangote.
He's coming soon.
All right, so what else is happening in the commodities space?
The commodity space, cocoa is actually above $3,500 per metric ton. Amazing for us. And that's just because you're seeing supply shortfalls in Ghana and Ivory Coast. We had mentioned last week as well that, Nigeria was also suffering some lower supply for this particular harvest season. And that's because of the heavy rainfall. But the higher prices is obviously nice to complement that. So going forward, we expect that cocoa prices reaches about 4,000. That will be huge, and that will definitely add to our reserves for sure.
All right. What about domestic?
Well, with domestic, prices are still stable, but we're seeing signs that the prices would begin to drop. We're currently in the harvest season, and the fact that, demand is not really there. I'm sure you can feel it in the air when you look at your own personal basket that usually, or your budget for the month, that has obviously reduced significantly. So we're not seeing prices increase so much, especially for, more elastic commodities.
And I hope the flood won't be a big challenge as it was last year. Last year, it dealt a huge blow on farmers.
It will for, the commodities that are being planted now. It will definitely affect some of those, that supply. But going forward with this particular harvest that we're seeing now, we're not seeing that impact. But whatever happens in the short term is what we would watch and see. And hopefully the rains, we hope it doesn't last for so long.
This morning was really surprising.
It was really
for
heavy,
a lot of us. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Bolanle Agbaje, Senior Analyst, Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you for having me.